On today's show, we're going to be discussing how SMEs can gain access to export finance. My guest on today's show is Gabby Buck, Managing Director of GKB Ventures Limited and Chairman of the British Bankers Association Export Finance and Trade Committee.
There's a lack of pre-positioning by the exporter in terms of making sure that the underlying contract is robust and bankable. I think the way that they approach a bank and the language that they use with that bank is not fitting with the requirements that the bank is looking for. So often there's a miscommunication. I think prior to 2007, 2008, banks, any bank up and down the UK, would lend money on the back of a one-page business proposal. The requirements today, particularly the regulatory requirements on the banks, require that bank to do much more due diligence on the end customer and the customers in country. Well, most small businesses, there's a very interesting paper that came out from Kingston University. Most small business, I think they said like 68%, start off as global businesses already with this perception that they're there to trade internationally. A lot of those businesses become international as a result of having an order from someone overseas, and so they just morph into this area. There's a lot of change going on, and let's take the banks as a first part of that. They are under huge amount of regulatory change, which requires them to do much more due diligence, and that is much more time consuming at a time when they're having to cut costs. So there's a lot of times that the SMEs are just not pre-positioning themselves well. The business proposition that they're putting forward to the banks is badly constructed. They haven't got the legal aspects tied up. They haven't got the counterparty risks properly defined. They're not using the language that bankers are looking for. Well, the banks need to know, for example, on the commercial contracts, that the payment obligation from the buyer is unconditional, irrevocable. There's no set-off, there's no counterclaim, so it's a sum due at a certain date for a certain amount. Against that, the bank is able to discount that. They are looking for working with an SME that truly understands and has passion for the business and sector that they're in. Someone who really is aware of the dynamics and is a true professional in whatever that they do. One of the most interesting sources of data that came out of the Cole Commission was that SMEs and mid-sized companies have a very good handle as to what is available in terms of products and services from the whole financial community if you're within the M25. The further you went north, the less knowledge and understanding that companies had as to what was on their doorstep. Funding is there, particularly for short-term working capital and short-term export finance business. Each of these bankers has their own or have their own autonomy to do business. So it's not, this business is not a very generic one structure fits all. I think in the 25 years I was doing export finance, I cannot think of two transactions I did in a similar manner. My name is Gabriel Buck. I'm the Chairman and Managing Director of GKB Ventures. I'm an independent consultant looking to support SMEs in terms of their exports and their export credit growth. Exporting is for a lot of companies part of their DNA from day one. Do not be disheartened if you are rejected from the banks. The banking market is much more fragmented. So my key words of advice to you is: 1, pre-position. 2, make sure that the advice that you're getting fits your own particular objectives as a business. 3, make sure that your propositions are in the language that the banks understand. 4, persevere and follow through. The market is huge across the world, and for those companies that are exporting and it's part of their DNA, the successes that they get make them much stronger credits.